Hello folks, well, it's been a little while, but I'm finally back, Time Twister, with part 6 of this playthrough. I know the camera angle is a little shaky sometimes when I'm in places like the base, but rate goes down a little bit because this is a slightly slower game, and I do like having precision controls when I aim, so hopefully you're willing to bear with me. Sorry it's been so long, but I have had a few issues outside the world of cyberspace. For those of you that have been patient with me, I know there's not too many of you, but you still are subscribers. God bless you for doing so. But that's the end of that. We're moving on. As you can see, the base is actually getting a few more things. There's actually more stuff now. We actually have the access to the ability to swap weapons now. I start with health kits now. And we actually have the shotgun as an accessible primary weapon and the revolver as a primary secondary. I generally like sticking with the default weapons they gave you at the beginning of the game, to be perfectly honest with you, for a variety of reasons. But somebody did tell me that they wanted to hear about some of the weapons that you get in the course of the game. So I'm just going to use this to describe a few of them for the sake of argument. The Soviets 9mm and their variation of this future's version of the Kalashnikov are actually very good weapons that do a moderate amount of damage and are reasonably accurate. And the reason why I would recommend getting very comfortable with these weapons is because one of your biggest enemies in this game is going to be running out of ammunition. And you're going to basically constantly have to scavenge it off of dead soldiers. And those two weapons are going to be the ones you find more than anything else in the game. And while the other weapons are of varying value, the simple fact of the matter is, unless they are freakishly useful, like some of the other ones I may or may not mention, the only place you are going to ever be able to get ammunition for them is if you happen to kill a special enemy that happens to carry that weapon, or go to your base and replenish it if it happens to have it, or one of the Russians' very rare ammunition depots that has every weapon during a mission, which I think I can count on one hand when that comes up. So even if you go into a mission with a special weapon, you're going to run out of ammo and have to ditch it anyway. So you might as well get comfortable with the defaults. Both weapons have the same generic type of crosshair, which you can use the right mouse button and aim down your iron sights. And what you will do is you will actually do something which is one of the things I like about this game. Your character does walk slowly, but he actually takes a traditional shooting stance while he's walking and basically squares himself up to explain it. And he's not 100% accurate, not even remotely. He basically will hit anything within the realm of his crosshairs. It's just that his crosshairs get much smaller as for what he can shoot, so you can actually aim at something much further down range and hit it. So like if his crosshairs actually are completely encompassed in the torso of an enemy, as long as that enemy isn't like dodging or doing evasion or is behind cover or whatever, like his whole head is covered in it, you can't miss. So that's the way you have to think about the targeting system here. It's not going to be like, Call of Duty's bullshit where, oh yeah, doesn't matter if you're moving around or firing from the hip, you're going to core it through the middle of the bullseye. No, there is actually a thing you have to factor in. And there's another thing which I've never totally mastered the gameplay behind this, and you don't have to with these weapons, but you do with things like the shotgun. Distance is a factor for how much damage things do. The shotgun will saw people in half at close range, especially much minor enemies like basic baddies. But when you get at further distances away, say, 20, 30, 40 feet, you're basically hitting them with a bevy of pistol shots, and since most of them wear armor, and the fact that you're not going to find very much ammunition for it, either you're going to have to find ways of getting up close and personal, which in many cases is a very bad idea. It's a much better idea to take people out from behind cover and at medium to long distance, or employ your freedom fighters, which can be very wasteful because you have to use your health kits to heal them. That's the one downside of your followers. Or just get comfortable with the default weapons. Now, like I said, there's the pistol, there's the American revolver, which does, I want to say 2 to 3 times as much damage per bullet, but you get 6 and 24 versus 17 in the magazine and 43. It's the same number of reloads, but depending on where you hit the soldier, again, this is another nice little thing. If you hit people in the head or very close to the head, you do double damage. So you can almost negate it, and just about every third Soviet soldier has the 9mm. I have never seen anybody actually drop the revolver. I've just picked it up in the base, so I don't bother with it. This is actually carried by their equivalent of a sergeant. He carries a red hat. If you're lucky, you see 2 to 3 on a mission, maybe. And that's about it. So I don't usually use the shotgun. I will pick it up, and actually that's something else. Situational awareness is very, very relevant in this game. If you're running low on ammo and you need to do some close quarters work and you drop a sergeant, feel free to pick up a shotgun and just clean out everybody in an area, then drop it and pick up the weapon you're more comfortable with. That I would recommend doing all the time. I would just recommend these as the weapons you traditionally carry out of the base and you normally are scrounging ammo for and are your default weapons. But feel free to drop them for a moment and use something else for a given situation, and then go back to whatever you've been using. That's fine. In addition to that, there's also a submachine gun which delivers a fully automatic and burst fire mode, which I believe you can switch to with your mouse wheel as opposed to flipping it, which actually switches your weapons like it is in the upper right hand corner. If you actually push down, you get the alternative fire. I have no alt modes right now, so I can't show you that. But it eats through ammunition, it does no more damage than this gun does, and the only people that carry it are special operatives that can basically in-cap or kill you instantly if they do a melee move on you. And you don't see them very often, so not really worth it in my opinion. There's a sniper rifle, which can kill most enemies in 1 to 2 hits. It can kill virtually all enemies with 1 headshot, except for the ridiculously heavily armored enemies. Fantastic weapon. If you were able to carry more ammo, or if it appeared more often, I'd say if you're really good with the pistols, since they happen a lot, you could go as a sniper and use your soldiers once you've got enough freedom fighters, but it's a little too rare. But it's a great gun. So I give a thumbs up to the Soviet sniper rifle, which, yes, it does look like the Dragunov. And then there is a 50 cal machine gun, which, yes, it basically is the mounted 50 cal, which apparently has been ripped off and had part of its stock taken away for ammo, for like weight concerns, I guess. But you basically carry something along the lines of 500 rounds for it, and either you put 200 in its drum magazine, or it loads all of them at once, and when it's done, it's done. If you can get your hands on that, and you actually can pretty easily much later in the game, because these armored apes that are basically miniature tanks carry them, if you can master aiming down your barrel and killing people by just firing really tiny bursts, or better yet, 1 and 2 shot bursts, single fire, it's actually the most powerful gun in the game, shot per shot, with the exception of the sniper rifle, as one would imagine. And it's actually the same strategy I hate to say it, that you would use in like Call of Duty if you're a real Call of Duty player. It's like, it's highly accurate and it's a really big round. So if you can hoard it and keep it through several missions, especially early on in the game, there's a couple of places you can do that. I'm going to try and do it. I may or may not succeed. It's a fantastic way to mow through people, and you can actually use it at pretty far range and sometimes get really lucky, you know, dropping it, using other weapons in a close quarters combat or long range combat with sniper rifle, to just keep picking it up and use other people. Later on in the game, you have a lot of those armor guys to worry about, and you can keep replenishing the ammo, but it basically what it turns you into, and this is actually why I love it so much, is you basically become that one guy in a platoon who's the heavy support weapons guy that levels people when there's just a bunch of people running at you. There's that one guy who has the M60 or the saw nowadays. You basically become that guy when you have a lot of followers. So, you have a bunch of guys firing and you have a protracted battle while everyone else has a machine, their AK-47 or their shotgun, and nobody's getting anywhere. Then you basically come up and just level a bunch of guys after you flank them with a saw. It's beautiful to see. So you can look forward to that later on in the game when I get there. Other than that, there are the two explosives in the game, grenades, which we'll get a little bit later on, which work pretty much how you'd expect. It's a gratifying explosion, but it's very difficult to angle, and it's very hard to figure out where things are going to go, where they're going to bounce. So I used them only so-so, and you can only carry 6. And then there's these guys, the Molotovs, which can spread to a certain degree. They explode wherever they land, and they have a few more uses in addition to the fact that you can carry 4 more. Not only can you set people on fire, and usually when you set a Soviet on fire, it's actually like what happens when you set someone on fire. They don't put themselves out. They're coated in gasoline type, napalm fire. So they're done. If they actually get on fire and start screaming, they're dead. The second thing is the Soviets are not stupid. They won't run into a fire that's already there. So if you're trying to run away because they're shooting at you, you can throw one of these down, and they'll either have to try and run around it or basically just stop and shoot at you rather than trying to get closer and go for a guaranteed kill shot. So you can use these as distractions. Both are very useful, which is why I like having mollies. And mollies, since these are easy to make, yes, the freedom fighters have them everywhere. They're not nearly as difficult to get. That basically covers all the weapons, and I know that basically covered about 10 minutes, but I figured it was worth it to give you guys a rundown of basically all the weapons. And since I'm doing this before I actually go into the gameplay, I'll explain the whole HUD real quickly too, since somebody asked about that as well. The top thing is your life bar. And unfortunately, no, there is no auto heals, because this is back in the day when we did not have hide behind a corner long enough and you'll heal. We have health packs, and health packs are not automatic use. They're a little bit frustrating in that regard. What you have to do is you have to actually holster your weapon by using the mouse button, and you have to actually go to your health kit and then use it by generally left-clicking or using the E button. I believe both are acceptable. Now, if you want to heal one of your teammates that's actually down, or an innocent citizen of New York that's actually been wounded for some reputation, or a wounded freedom fighter that will, join your cause upon doing that. There's actually a few wounded Soviets that have basically been betrayed by the Soviet Union that will actually join the American cause if you do this. I always think that's hilarious. You have to use a health kit on them. And they have, by the way, the Soviet guys usually have fantastic guns. And they never run out. You can walk over to them and you have to use the E button to make sure you don't use it on yourself. And it'll usually prompt you to do so. So my advice to you, you can only carry 8, but always be conscious of that. Always be conscious of how many health packs you have. Always be conscious of your health bar. Try to keep it fresh. If it's getting anywhere near 50%, try and use one, and always try and get more if you don't already have them. To the point that I would recommend level hopping from time to time and getting more, even if it slows down your level progression, because there might be that one opportunity you had to get reputation or boost your chances of beating a level, and you screwed the pooch because you decided to not get health kits and you didn't have one in the clutch position. Now the bar immediately below that, that's your rep meter. Every time you gain reputation in the city, you gain plus 15, plus 30, whatever. Well, it translates that literally into that bar. It just gets closer. It starts off at empty and it gains in the yellow. When you get it all the way full, you get another one of those circles. If you saw number 5 of this particular Let's Play, they gave me a very, very basic tutorial of how to use freedom fighters, but that's basically what happens. Every time I go up to somebody and recruit them and they join my army, one of those circles gets filled. And whatever that individual freedom fighter is doing, and you usually give those orders individually in a row, and yeah, unfortunately, there's no way to actually walk up to one person, talk to them, and give that one person an order. It just always kind of starts in the upper left and works its way left to right, then top to bottom until it goes through the line linearly. Or you can hold the key down a little bit for like a second or two longer, and then you give the order to the entire squad. Generally speaking, unless it's really important for me to break the squad up, I just order the entire squad around and keep them together. It's much safer that way. Occasionally I'll leave a couple of like sentries behind me if I know I'm going to get ambushed or snuck up on from behind, and take the rest of the squad with me, but I'll usually bring them up very quickly. I have 2 right now. I can get 12. Try to imagine, while easy enough to down, they have no more health than you. Very competent, highly accurate, and fairly decent, especially for 2003, situational awareness AIs, basically delivering walls of gunfire, covering you and destroying your enemies. That's what you get towards the end of the game. It is glorious, especially for that particular generation of game, and it's why I love this game so much way back when, and why I still love it 10 years later. Okay, so in the next mission, we are going, well, missions, we will go into the next part of the game where we will actually see some action and the weight and consequences of side objectives. Till then, time out.